Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 30 of the Clappercast. It's November 25th, 2019, and I'm Burke,
And I'm Sean.
and we are back with another episode. So I think the kind of the tale of the week has been Mike Babcock,
Yeah,
wouldn't you
this the
say?
story has absolutely dominated from whenever last Tuesday when it happened, and it's just been constantly in the media being brought up again for the rest of the week until even today. There's still a lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah, I think it's really going to dominate the rest of the season with it
Yeah,
being
it
Toronto.
it seriously will. There seems to be a lot of other stuff coming out, um, somewhat linked to him, his coaching style, and stuff related to him. So that'll probably just keep getting uncovered throughout the year.
Yeah, so I guess to cap it off, we'll just kind of give a little bit of background for the firing. So Leafs were on a bit of a losing streak. I think they lost six in a row,
That sounds right.
and they uh, they canned them on a road trip, which is pretty interesting. Um,
Didn't
and that,
did Shanahan flew down to Arizona to fire him, right?
yep, yeah, I think it was a Shanny decision, not.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of speculation that Dubas wanted to fire him in the off season and wasn't given the
Yes.
go ahead, and now
So I
Shanahan
heard that
officially
too.
gave it.
On Hockey Night in Canada last weekend. They said that if it weren't for the Leafs' performance in the first round series against the Bruins last year in the playoffs, particularly in Game 5, they would have fired him in the offseason. But there was something that they liked about how the team played and fought in that series that bought him another chance.
Babs is gone, and the Sheldon Keefe era begins, and they're 2-0 so far.
Which that's a good start for him too. And there's a few immediate kind of fuck you to Babcock, um, right off the bat with in the first game how Tyson Berry's kind of immediately gained more trust and he's getting more ice time, more power play time, chance on the first unit alongside Morgan Riley. They're kind of
Yeah.
going back to the three forward, two defenseman system.
Hmm.
And there was also the game they played in Colorado where Denver kid Nick Shore got the start because that's a good story, right? You have the hometown guy playing in the lineup, and then he goes and scores a goal immediately, which
Yeah.
go back to the first game of the season with Jason Spezza, where hometown kid playing in front of his hometown crowd against his former team gets scratched.
Right, and had bought a bunch of tickets for friends and family to
Yeah,
come too.
so they
Yeah,
got to look up at the press box and see him sitting up there eating popcorn.
yeah, it's pretty cool for Barry. He scores his first goal under the new coach, and then he's got two goals and assists. Yeah, gets a look on the first power play, scores on his first time out there. It's
Yeah,
pretty
so that's
pretty
just
cool against
that's
his
just a
old
good
team too.
bounce
Yeah,
back.
it's things are looking up for Barry. Um,
Yeah, and especially for you because you have him in one of your fantasy pools, and we're
yeah,
we're looking at trying to trade him over the last couple
yeah.
of weeks.
I sent out some offers, and I'm glad that nobody took me up on that because hanging on to him is looks to be paying off so far. He's actually one of my best defensemen now, which is
Yeah,
very. It's kind of been flipped upside down a bit.
for
So yeah,
sure.
it's exciting for him, I think, and then exciting for a bunch of the Leafs. There's a lot of stories coming out that he's Babs wasn't the most well-liked guy. There's a few people who really excelled under him, namely Nazem Kadri and Morgan Riley, who have both, said that he was a good coach for them in their careers and did a lot for them for their own
Um,
development.
I think it's important to note too in his kind of farewell parting speech that Morgan Riley was the only person that Babcock name dropped,
Right. Yeah.
and all he really had to say is that Riley was here for it all. There wasn't even a performance thing, or just yep, he was here for a long time.
Yeah. He was, can confirm. He definitely helped develop his game a lot. Put a lot of trust in him. Stuck with him this year on the power play and wasn't really working out, but it's exciting for Riley that he gets to stay on that power play with
Yeah.
with Barry. Bit of a different look.
So before we get into a little bit of the aftermath of what's kind of happening after the firing, what do you think are some of the reasons he couldn't get it going with that team, just in terms of style and systems and on ice performance?
I think he was just a little bit too reluctant to change things, kind of set in his style and determined to try and, tough it out. But yeah, that lack of being able to adjust, I think, is what really did it.
Adaptability. It's
Yeah,
huge for him. Yeah.
yeah. You know, just even looking at the power play, like we were just talking about, refusing to take Morgan Riley off or to tweak it, even put Barry on. He was a guy who everybody knows is a power play specialist. Why don't you at least try it if you're not scoring? Try it.
Well, especially
Let's.
especially like immediately Keefe goes to a three forward, two defenseman one, which seems to be working just fine. If you don't want to take Riley off of the first unit
Mhm.
for Barry, then why not both? Because to be honest, like one of them is basically a forward anyways.
Yeah, and not every power play in the NHL needs to be a four forward, one defenseman unit.
No, because that's a in NHL terms, that's a relatively new development anyways. Because even like 10 years ago, it used to be three forwards most of the time, I think.
Yeah, and I think just using Barry is just a little bit of a like anecdote for the entire situation. Babs wanted a right hand D. He gets it. He doesn't use it. You got what you wanted. There's no excuse now.
Yeah, you bring up a good phrase there with won't use it, and brings up another huge one for me is his player utilization, where we saw how he misutilized Tyson Barrie all season. We've seen how he misutilizes his goalies and his tandems, especially in back-to-back situations. We've seen his total preference for like the grindy fourth liner type in all situations, to the point where guys like Matthews and Marner get way less ice time, especially at the end of games when you're down by a goal and you need the scorers out there.
Most notably in playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
So
using his
that I
star
think that's a
players.
huge one too, is just completely oblivious to like what actually might work, versus he's got this like blank system in his brain that doesn't actually like insert the players he's got, and he just uses that system over and over again.
Yeah, it's like trying to turn everybody into a two-way player. It doesn't work because there's star players who won't play that way, and they need the freedom to be able to, move around the ice a bit more.
Yeah. And there's also a huge difference between someone being a two-way player and someone just being like a reliable one. Because not everyone needs to be like a top 10 two-way forward in the league winning Selkies.
Yeah,
Like all Matthews and Marner have to do is not be defensive liabilities.
right. I mean, Marner's more than that. He's a
Yeah,
good
he's
defensive
good.
player.
Yeah, he's an
Um,
effective player on both sides of the puck.
I mean, we've been
So that
seeing
one worked out.
this weird relationship with star players for a number of years with Babs. I mean, most notably with Austin Matthews, that weird thing where like he had to go to Arizona in the off season to like work on their relationship. It was
Yeah.
really bizarro that, we even heard about that. So I think it's just kind of, everything culminated in a losing streak, and it was a easy decision, I think, to
The last
try
straw.
something else because Babs was looking pretty reluctant to even adjust anything, and yeah, got
Yeah.
fired because of it, I think.
Yeah. And while I am surprised that they did it was pretty abrupt. Like there wasn't really any lead up to it. It just kind of broke one day.
Yeah,
Which that's the part I'm kind of surprised about, is how quickly it all came out. And I mean, it makes sense given that the team is not in a very great cap situation, and how big is their cup window going to be with what they've got on their roster? They're going to need to make sure they're not wasting any time trying
yeah.
to win. So,
I got a spicy rumor for you that I actually heard firsthand at an arena. So I was reffing with this guy, and his
okay.
son works in the NHL. He's not a player, but he had said that how there was just the like Hockey Hall of Fame induction right before Babs got fired.
Yes.
So this guy told me that his son told him that Babs was fired like before the weekend, before the Hockey Hall of Fame, and they just did not want to make it the big story.
Okay.
So they waited until that had all kind of gone over and gone through, and then they announced it. So he was already gone, but they just waited to make the
Interesting.
announcement so it wouldn't be like taking away from all those people getting into the hall.
I feel like that's a class move. I feel like that's believable too.
Yeah, and then there's that video of Babcock being asked about something. And did you see that video where he looks really like shaken before he got fired? He
No.
was asked like, "Oh, what's going on?" And he was like really rattled looking, and he said like, like Shanahan is coming down for a visit, and
Oh,
it's nothing major. He's just doesn't like the weather in Toronto or something, and
routine checkup.
I think that was just his version of I'm fired. I don't want to tell you yet because there's no real announcement. If this
Yeah,
rumor was true, it could have
yeah,
just
no,
been a weird,
that's
awkward
that makes
intro.
sense.
Yeah, so I got my insider knowledge. Thanks for that guy at the rink. I think it makes sense though.
Yeah, so I mean, on the topic of rumors, so I guess this isn't a rumor anymore because it's been confirmed today. But but we'll kind of run through the story here. But back in his rookie year when Mitch Marner was a rookie, Mike Babcock had Mitch Marner make a list of the hardest working players on the team from like least or like hardest to least or whatever.
Hmm.
And then when Marner finally made that list, because he was very adamant that he was the least hardest working player on the team, when Babcock finally grilled him enough to like name somebody else in that role, he went and told the players about the list and like told the players who were named the least hardest working and all that in
Yeah,
front of, and of course like Marner finds out, he's like completely distraught about it, like how to traumatize someone basically.
yeah,
And the guys in the room were pretty pissed off too. Not at Marner, at Babcock for making him do that,
yep.
but this was just a rumor yesterday, and overnight it kind of grew, and then this morning it was confirmed as Friedman and Dreger both tweeted about talking to Babcock this morning, and basically said, "Yeah, it was a mistake. I apologized at the time." So that says that he did it, and there's nothing inaccurate about the story. So we can kind of take what we know is fact at this point.
Yeah, and Marner he gave an interview and he mentioned it too, and he looked very
Yeah,
uncomfortable during the whole thing. I
you could tell he was very in hockey cliche mode, trying to downplay it and like end the question.
I find it incredibly weird that we're hearing about that now. Like it's just like doesn't it strike you as
That's the type of
something
thing
that
no
would
one
have
wants to
come
get
out
out.
like a year later? Like it just seems so weird that it's coming out this early after him getting fired.
There was actually a Reddit post about a year ago, I think, that someone reported this happened, but because it was just a Reddit post with no backing or no like source or proof, it just kind of blew over.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I feel like it's not surprising we didn't hear about this because there's going to be a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we just don't know about. And a lot of stuff that the team tells people or journalists or whoever to say, do not say anything about this.
I can understand the intent behind that move. It's just super old school because it's kind of like you have a boss, and like if your boss is a dickhead and he tells you you're not working hard enough, you're gonna be like, well, he's just kind of a dickhead.
Yeah,
But if you're like, oh, well, Mitch over there says you're not working hard, you're like, what? Mitch, what the hell? Like, I better work hard because Mitch doesn't think I'm working hard enough. Like
yeah,
that's
like
kind of
that's
probably
just
the intent, right? But everybody in the room obviously thought like, well, this is just Babs being an asshole. Let's
yeah.
not
And
engage on
I
this.
mean, maybe he's just playing like 5D chess and trying to bring the players closer together at the expense of his own relationship with them.
Maybe. I mean, that could be something too. Like they're gonna
That's mostly
bond over
just
their
a,
hatred
it's
of
not
you.
even like a serious statement. It's just like I don't think that was his intention at all.
No, no, but I mean,
But
it could be. You never know.
yeah, yeah, we never know, I guess.
That's it's kind of a hard line thing too, right? Like I'm not doing my job as a coach unless my players hate me. And I don't think this thing is a unique. This isn't a unique thing. Like I don't think he came up with this because there's been a lot of people say like I've had coaches do that to me. Like
Well, he also did it in Detroit apparently too. That one's not confirmed yet, but it's been talked about today alongside the Marner one that he did the same thing in Detroit with a rookie player.
oh yeah, I don't doubt it. Um,
So
I just think it's not his. He hasn't come up with this move. I think it's just like an old school
no,
hockey thing. Like I'm sure we'll hear a lot of crazy shit. There's a lot of crazy shit we haven't heard about. Legendary coaches like Scotty Bowman and other guys. We've heard a lot
yeah,
about like Mike Keenan being a
mm,
total prick, and I'm sure he's done a lot of stuff like that. But
yeah,
a lot of those old school coaches probably pulled a lot of weird shit to try and play head games and stuff. So
yeah.
I think
And
it's just
too, the
kind of
thing
like
the thing with the exact, we'll say, assignment that he had Marner to do is like all he would have had to do to make it okay is like, okay, who do you think is the hardest working guy in the room? Marner points out a guy, and then he says, okay, cool, look, watch him, play him,
Yeah.
like stay alongside him. And that like the entire intent behind what Babcock had going on is totally fine because it's like a positive thing that's actually teaching and showing someone what to do
Yeah.
rather
He's
than this
just
like
trying to
weird
get
emotional torture manipulation stuff.
he's just trying to get the double whammy because he's trying to get Marner to model his game after the top of the list, but he's also trying to motivate the guys on the bottom of the list too,
Yeah,
in a negative way by saying like, oh, this kid came in, this is what he thinks of your game. You need to step it up so that he doesn't think that way of you. But
yeah,
it's just not a good way to do it because you're making this rookie who is, new to the team stand out in a negative way and potentially causing conflict, negative
yeah,
conflict.
yeah, totally. And like that, I mean, I guess he's also kind of lucky that it brought the like the players weren't pissed off at each other after that. That
Yeah.
they kind of banded together in that sense because it could have been horrible for the dressing room too, especially for a rookie star player coming in. Like,
And it was interesting that the player that um, Mitch put last was Nazem Kadri, which is, one of Bab's boys and also probably one of the hardest working guys on the team. So it's kind of like that was a very thought out answer, I think. Picking Kadri. I don't know,
yeah,
it strikes me as like a smart choice in that dilemma to put somebody who could take it.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, very weird. I'm sure there's a lot of other things he had in his toolbox that we won't hear about that were worse than that.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks if stuff starts getting like more source behind it and more discussion in the media. Could be interesting. Yeah, so another one too is like it's apparent like he's apparently done this in Detroit his whole time. It's just that, it's just who he's been. But Shanahan still brought him to Toronto. Like that kind of confused me. That if like Shanahan knows he's a dick and especially vets don't want to play for him and he's just like this hard ass old school guy, but he still brings him to Toronto to play with all to coach these like young, energetic, skilled teams. That one kind of struck me as a bit weird as all this stuff is coming out.
Well, it's probably because he's still a good coach. He might be a dick in old school, but like if you look at what he did in Toronto, he was still successful. Just because they lost six in a row now doesn't mean he wasn't a successful coach there. He got that team into playoffs, you know,
I
every
guess
year
they
but
did
one
have that
year.
turnaround that one year when everyone started breaking out and playing a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that a lot of the players had more of an impact than him, but I think ultimately he was successful, like it or
It
not.
probably takes the right combination of everything. I mean, Edmonton's had a lot of decent players too, and the same type of weird questions around depth and defense, and he never turned it around for a while. Toronto did.
Yeah, and Shanahan there for the cup with Babs? Because
Detroit.
if he was, that would probably make an impact on how Shanahan thought of Babcock. Success is appealing to management.
Yeah,
I think
very
he
true.
probably knew he was a coach not for everybody, but that's every coach in the NHL. Like we said, there's players that are going to exceed under or Keefe, like Barry, Matthews probably, but there's other players who won't, right? There's players who
Fair.
won't get the same treatment that they did as under Babcock, like potentially Morgan Riley. He might struggle under Keefe because he doesn't have that same relationship as
Yeah,
he did with Babs.
could be motivated in different ways too. Everyone's got different motive or things they're motivated
Right.
by.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you saw it, but there was a Henrik Zetterberg quote that he mentioned when Babs had left Detroit, and he had said something like, the team, Babs, and the players decided it was time for him to go, and he made another comment saying like, he motivated me to be a better player, and I could always be honest with him, and he could be very honest with me, but his style was not for everybody, something to that extent.
Yeah,
And it's very telling. It's like it's not for everybody. No one can be appealing to everybody. Nobody can do that. Like there's not a single coach in the NHL who has a full roster of guys who can just, respond to them. There's always going to be some differences. There's always going to be guys who don't like the amount of playing time that they're getting. It's just
Yeah,
that's
you can't please
that's the way
everybody.
she goes.
Basically, yeah.
Zetterberg has had success with Babs, and every every coach and player have to move on at some point. Yeah. So I don't know if he'll get a job somewhere.
Yeah, that was my next
Um,
question. Like, is he really going to get another shot? Because there's going to be a lot of negativity following him at this point. And I feel like as more of this type of stuff comes out and becomes public, especially, we've had Mike Commodore over the last few years constantly talking about Babcock in the media. And I mean, now more of that looks like more of it's believable because before it was just like psychotic ex-player ranting on Twitter about someone completely fixated on him. But now there's a little bit more to that when the other side starts coming out and it starts to kind of back up the perspective that Commodore's been putting out over the last couple of years.
yeah, I think there's still a pretty good chance he'll get a job somewhere because he's just
Hockey's an
had a
old boys club.
success. Yeah, he's
Like that's basically it. Like hockey's an old boys club. He's absolutely going to get another shot somewhere else.
yeah, and there's lots of
It might
teams
it
that
might
could use a
take a little time.
turnaround.
It might not be for a year or two. He just well stuff blows over and maybe Babcock himself kind of rethinks his strategies. But that's kind of the way hockey goes. Is like the same guys keep getting reused in different positions, different locations. And there's going to be a coaching vacancy right
Yeah,
away in Seattle. So
yeah, I don't think he'll be the right coach for that situation, but um, I think that there will be at least one general manager in the league who looks at what Babcock did in Toronto and is impressed by that. It'll take some hard work with the general manager and the coaching staff to have to replicate that success from a team that's in the the bottom of the division to the top. But
yeah.
if
And
they
we do see
believe in him,
similar types of coaches sometimes. Tortorella used to be one of them, where it's kind of you bring them in for a year or two to kind of turn things around really quickly, and they're not going to last there very long, but they get like quick results.
yeah,
Where it'd be kind of like one of those bubble teams or a team that like needs to step it up right now, brings them in for a year or whatever,
right,
quickly do some changes to the culture and the work ethic of the team. I say culture, but apparently that's not going to be a very good thing for Babcock to change. But something one of those like hard nosed guys that's going to wear out his welcome very quickly, but gets immediate results.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still getting paid by Toronto for like 5 more years. So
Yeah. Apparently his contract was very front loaded, so most of that's already been paid out, but he's still getting paid for a lot of years.
yeah, then they'll have to work something out if he ever wants to go somewhere. Um, Might be that thing like Torts when he moved and there's like a draft pick that changed hands if he gets hired somewhere else.
hmm
Yeah, but I was, changing gears to the other side of the story is Keefe coming in. He's somebody who worked with Dubas at the OHL level, at the AHL level, and now at the NHL level. So it's kind of cool to see him follow Dubas, um, being groomed for each level.
They're going to have a strong working relationship, and they'll be comfortable with each other and probably good at working closely. So we'll probably see a bit better utilization of the type of team that Dubas is trying to build, because
Yeah,
they'll be pretty on like in tune with each other in terms of what holes they need to fill, what their surpluses are, and all that type of stuff.
yeah, and they won the Calder Cup together in the AHL. So, it's kind of cool to see them reunited again. And it's been cool to
Yeah,
see Keefe, kind of there's like some videos of him taking it all in. It's kind of cool. Always cool to see a rookie coach come in to the NHL,
yeah,
get his
definitely.
shot. So I mean, he's got his work
So
cut
now
out
we'll
for
be
him.
seeing because both you and me picked Toronto to be, I think, cup finalists out of the East. So now it'll be time to see if they can turn it around and get back to where we thought they would be because they're kind of sitting in a bit of a distant spot right now. They're technically only 1 point out of a playoff spot, but it's hard to make up ground at all times.
Yeah, especially if he wants to implement new systems, it's gonna be tough because I think
Yeah, and there's
usually
usually like that 10, I think it's like 10 game grace period with a new coach
right.
where they're just really, really good for a bit and then it kind of regresses a bit to the norm. So you kind of want to make use of the momentum off the coaching change while it's there, just in case you kind of struggle a little bit come the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean, every time that the coach changes, there's usually that boost, and then, like you said, kind of regresses. So we'll see if that happens to the Leafs or if they, keep winning. But the Toronto Maple Leafs will never lose a game again under Sheldon Keefe.
That's looking accurate so far.
I don't know. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to Babs or to Keefe?
One more discussion point. So we've seen in Toronto with their restricted free agents more holdouts and higher paid contracts or higher value contracts than really anywhere else around the league. And I'm wondering because obviously the players are going to be like needing to like negotiate their side and make it worthwhile to stay in Toronto. If they know they're playing under a hard-nosed coach like Babcock, would they use that and say, I'm going to need to take or I'm going to need more money to stay here, especially we saw with Marner, and we know the effect of Marner's dad and all this type of stuff with his meddling in Mitch's hockey career. So I was kind of wondering if like that would have an impact on the amount of money some of these guys were getting.
Potentially. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, obviously it's all speculation, so
It very well could be, but I think the likelihood that a coach is fired is pretty high, like at all times. I think most players on their teams are going to outlive their coach, as in
yeah.
terms of time with the team, that is. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it very well could have. It could have been a major point for the contract negotiations. It could have been, Babs is here. I don't want to sign long term, and maybe they said we have a long term plan for the future of the team that doesn't involve him.
Yeah, that could be true. That could be a good one too. That kind of they took the shorter term deal to kind of see the plan through because obviously I think the long term plan was for Sheldon Keefe to take over at some point. Maybe it's a little bit faster than they would have hoped, but I feel like that was their plan.
Absolutely.
So you can kind of sell that, how the players kind of take the shorter term, higher money deal now. Obviously, it benefits them because then they get to renegotiate when the cap's higher sooner.
Hmm.
And then they get their longer term deal at a higher amount with a more favorable situation, possibly, depending how long this lasts.
Yeah, with a newer, modern coach.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. We could never know. I don't know.
probably not, because a lot of this type of stuff is never going to get made public, but still fun to talk about and discuss and speculate.
Oh yeah, for sure. So moving on, there's a couple suspensions. One of which was Bobby Bertuzzo. He got 4 games for the cross-check to Victor Arvidsson on the Nashville Predators. So he cross-checked him from behind into the crossbar, and Arvidsson he left the game for concussion protocol, and I don't think he came back, did he?
No,
Yeah, so
no, he's now out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's come out. He's out. So
But I think a lot of the suspension came from the second cross check,
right,
the one that turned Arvidsson's spine into a spring.
yeah, that could be true.
And yeah, so there was that first cross check you described where Bortuzzo came in from behind, cross checked Arvidsson into the crossbar and the net, and then he looked over at the ref because he was getting probably just a 2 minute for cross checking off the play. Looked over at the ref, kind of threw his head back like, "Are you kidding me? Come on!" And then looked down at Arvidsson, cross checked him in the spine, and then just like, okay.
And then Binnington hit him too.
Yeah.
So he's got to get his little extra shot in.
Yeah, well, I don't think Binnington was watching. I'm trying to remember the video, but I don't think Binnington was watching, and he just felt Arvidsson like playing around behind him and in the net and stuff, and was like, "Why are you in the net?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the way Bortuzzo like played off the play and the second cross check was absolutely worthy of a suspension.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not surprised it didn't go higher because they didn't give him an in-person hearing, but 4 games might be a little bit light for something like that. I'm looking at specifically at the second cross check. The first one was just a penalty, not a suspension.
Yeah.
But the second one, after he knew what he had done, he was already getting a penalty on the play, and then he just went for the second one anyways. Like that's the one that's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I think it's a bit light considering that the other suspension earlier last week was Garnet Hathaway getting 3 games for spitting on Goodbranson.
Also, they gave Hathaway 3 games for intent to injure on that. I don't know if that came out when we recorded the episode, but that was like a reasoning that got released or it started getting talked about. It was intent to injure. So I don't know if Hathaway is a biological weapon or something, but
yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of disease does he have?
Let's start that story.
Yeah, hepatitis. Yeah, so it's kind of weird that the cross check got 4. I would have been okay with it if Hathaway didn't just get 3 for spitting. Like it just like in a vacuum, I think that would be a good suspension, but with Hathaway getting 3 for that seems a bit light. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the end of the day, I won't lose any sleep over it. It's not a terrible decision. And, he is getting suspension. The fact that he is a repeat offender and only got 4 is a bit light too. But
Yeah. Well, I guess the key off that is like repeat offender only affects how much he loses in the suspension in terms of pay. I don't think they factor that into the length or the severity of the suspension, just what he forfeits in salary, which I think might need to change if that's how
I
it works and I'm remembering it right.
I thought it affected the length because when Tom Wilson got suspended and he got the ban hammer dropped on him, he got there was like a modifier basically on his suspension because he was a repeat offender and it lengthened the amount of games. Um, I don't know, I could be
Yeah,
misremembering,
I'm a
but
little bit confused on that because I see them do that sometimes, and then we also see them like not factored in sometimes. And then I was reading about this particular suspension, and I saw someone say it only affects the salary forfeited. So it's hard to say
I
exactly
don't
what
know.
it is.
It's very nebulous and vague.
But like on the Department of Player Safety FAQs page right now, it says a player is considered repeat offender for 18 months following the most recent incident, some other stuff. Then his status as repeat offender in this category is used to determine the amount of salary forfeited should he receive another suspension.
Yeah, I don't know,
But then the
man.
next sentence is that like the past history may come into consideration when for determining future supplemental discipline. So they might factor it in, but I guess it doesn't technically affect it
I just think it's dumb.
or
I mean,
officially.
let's mention
Yeah.
the other suspension here is
Yeah.
Alexander Kerfoot got suspended 2 games for boarding Eric Johnson on the Avalanche.
Yes.
And again, in a vacuum, this is an okay decision.
I think so. It was a dangerous
Um,
play.
Dangerous play.
We're fortunate that Johnson turned and came out all right because that could have been nasty heading into the board's head first like that.
Yeah, I think it could have been a lot worse, and that's why I'm okay with the suspension, is because it's a really dangerous play and the it could have been bad. But I think it would it's maybe a touch on the heavy side here. I think 1 game would have been like, perfect because there's no intent. Like he wasn't
Yeah.
trying to kill him.
There was no intent on that. That
Kerfoot
wasn't the intent.
Kerfoot has like no history of being a knob. I don't think he's ever laid a hit in his career. I saw a
Well, and
joke and it was
the other thing too is like after he hit Johnson, he goes into the boards and he's immediately like hand on Johnson's shoulder, like, oh shit, what I just do?
what did I do to my friend? Um,
Yeah.
I saw a thing because the game was played in Colorado at the Pepsi Center, um, and there was a comment on Reddit from a Colorado fan. I don't remember his username, but he'd said like, "Wow, Kerfoot sure picked a good time to lay his first hit in the Pepsi Center." It's pretty good. Um, but anyway, so like I said, in a vacuum, this is a good suspension. But considering that Hathaway got 3 games for spitting on someone, and then Bertuzzo, who has intent on the play, history of being suspended, and an injury on the play, 4 games.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what is going on with these decisions? Because Johnson was not hurt, right? He was fine.
He he seemed fine. I didn't look if he was hurt like after the game, but I don't think he missed it. I don't think he left the game or anything.
Yeah, I think he's fine. So like no injury, no history, no intent. And then Bortuzzo, you have all of those things. You have an injury history and clearly intent.
Yep.
4 games. Like what?
It's a
This
real head scratcher. And just like every single time this type of stuff happens so close together, we all we can do is like think about the wheel of justice, because that seems to be the prime determining factor in suspension length.
yeah. Another thing is, did you see the Marchand cross-check in the Boston Minnesota game? It was on the
I did
same
not
night
yet.
as the Kerfoot hit on Johnson. It was like the exact same, maybe a little less speed, But
Apparently, it's difficult to Google search Marchand crosscheck because there's a lot of them.
yeah. Um, so it was like the same type of hit. And it was a little slower, I'd say, but um, you know, not even looked at. It's just
Yeah,
okay.
and then you've got Marchand, who has like a very long history of
Yeah, literally the night, same night,
yeah,
same type of hit. I don't get
and
it.
all he gets was looks like he got what 2 minutes for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, inconsistent, but like I said, in a vacuum, they're all okay. It's just the fact that they're all within the same week of play. It makes them a little bit questionable, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit harder to swallow.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much everything I had on my list. Did you want to talk about anything else?
I want to talk about the Oilers' special teams this season because those are good.
Brag time.
Just a little bit, but not even as much of a brag, but just the comparison with the last 2 to 3 years in Edmonton, where the penalty kill's been perpetually down in the bottom five of the league, where they can't kill a penalty, especially at home. They had the one year was like 50% for most of the season. Their penalty kill, or the power play, pardon me, has been usually bad, but they had a good year last year, I think. And we saw how the team struggled so much over those years when you factor in when you're giving up a goal on the penalty kill or when you're giving up a shorthanded goal every game and when
Yeah,
you're not scoring any power play goals, like how that's basically a 1 to 2 goal swing directly from the special teams, never mind anything that happens from the momentum that comes from giving up a goal or not scoring on the power play. And this year we're seeing the Oilers first in the league with power play percentage and second in the league tied for second in the league penalty kill. And we're seeing how good they're doing and how many goals they're getting on the power play, how much momentum they're gaining from the power play, and how much they're not giving up on the penalty kill, and the impact that's having on their overall performance, which, I'm surprised the team is still doing as well as they are, honestly. I didn't think it was going to last this long, especially heading into American Thanksgiving this weekend. I mean, that could just be the long-term pessimistic Oilers fan in me, but we're heading into American Thanksgiving and they're still first in the Pacific. And I think one of the major reasons is their success on the special team so far.
I just got a picture in my head. The LA Noir like doubt meme. I
That is
see
me.
your face on that with an Oilers jersey on. Doubt.
Looking at the standings, that is me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've still got it on. I've still got that on, but they keep doing well on the special teams and they keep winning. And yesterday they played Arizona and they got a power play goal like a minute or two into the game or something. So like imagine the tone that sets for the rest of the night. Even though they found themselves down going into the third, it's such a game changer to be excelling or know you have confidence in this part of your game that you
Right.
can kind of make up some ground or get ahead or something.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to mention there um, is that Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen have been like a great tandem.
Yeah,
Like
I'm very
up
impressed
there
with
in the
Mike
league.
Smith.
Yeah.
Like he's been good, and he's only cost the team I think one game so far with his puck handling stuff, but it's kind of a unique style of play, and it kind of fits with the Oilers because they're a quick attack team. They play off the rush a lot. So to
Hmm.
have Smith be able to turn the puck around on a dump in so quickly and send it up the ice the other way, like that's pretty good for the Oilers style.
Yeah, it's a
And
good fit.
yeah, for Mikko Koskinen too. Last year his glove hand was a major concern, which it hasn't been as bad this year, and he's kind of solidified his game with that glove hand and with his positioning. He still gives up a few weird goals with some difficulties covering on the posts, but overall he's been good. And he's learning from Mike Smith on the puck handling stuff too. He comes out and plays the puck way more too.
Yeah,
And he
I've
looks good
noticed
doing
that
it.
too. Yeah, you got two monsters in net. It's nice. It's a
It's
nice
weird.
luxury to have.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, Warriors are looking good, man. They're fun to watch.
This is the team they're playing like we thought they should have been for like every other year this year finally.
Yeah.
They're actually like a fun team to watch. They've actually got that energy. They've actually got the ability to come back from behind in games and stay with it and just
Did
actually enjoy watching Oilers hockey.
did the Flames and Oilers just have like a Freaky Friday and change teams? Like, what is this?
Well, if you look at the offseason, yeah, I think kind of traded hands on a few more than a few players within the teams, and
They they infected them.
the Flames were the Oilers where I thought the Oilers were going to be, and the Oilers were I thought the Flames were going to be.
Yeah, it's Lucian Talbot and Reeder. They've infected the Flames with the Oilers sickness.
Well, yeah, I
It's
mean,
pretty.
how are the Flames supposed to make the playoffs if Reeder doesn't score 10 to 15 goals?
It's just not happening.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's impressive to watch a team be that dominant on both the penalty kill and the power play. It's cool.
Yeah,
I don't recall when that happened last. Like a team was so dominant in both. It's cool. Yeah, I guess kind of just Babs and suspension talk episode, but I'm okay with it.
yeah, I mean, it's the big stories of the week. Got to discuss them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to touch on. So with that, thanks for listening. You can always find us on Instagram at Clappercast Media, Twitter at Clappercast. So follow that. We share things throughout the week in between episodes. Got some news on Instagram and Twitter. And thanks for listening.